happy holidays from all of us at GBS 7. The one to watch in Central New York.
The following program has been rated TV PG and is intended for all viewers. Viewer discretion is not advised.
Merry Christmas everyone. How is the party so far?
It's neat that we're doing this in the MMB production studios.
Party aside, we've got a show to run.
You've got a point. To the Idea Design Studio. Hey guys, we're back. Welcome to the 2023 MMB Productions Christmas Special, where we will continue our quest to cover the situation in NFL games. In this video, we will cover games 11 through 20 in the OG NFL Quarterback Club. Now I normally don't do Christmas type specials, but this year's gonna be different. Now let's get started. Now before we begin, here's a quick recap about what the point of these videos are. And before you ask, yes, I repainted my update set to be Broncos themed. Now, if you recall the Thanksgiving special last month, I said that one of the most interesting ideas for an American football game is situations where you play as a certain team and either repeat or even rewrite history. These can actually be custom through the simulation mode, where you make your own scenarios, but that's usually made up. Some games have moments from past seasons that you can experience. I decided to start off with the original QBC game from 1994, although I don't believe it was the first game to have the mode. Now, games 1 through 10 were the following: the 1988 Week 4 Monday Night Football game between the Broncos and Raiders, the Week 12 1977 game between the Vikings and 49ers, the 1976 Pro Bowl, Super Bowl V, Super Bowl X, the 1982 Pro Bowl, the Miracle in Miami, a 1981 AFC Divisional Playoff game between the Dolphins and Chargers, the 1971 AFC Divisional Playoff game between the Dolphins and the Chiefs, the Week 4 1979 game between the Broncos and the Seahawks, and the Week 10 1991 game between the Jets and the Packers. Also, you may not know this, but when I was being born, my dad was watching the Week 5 Monday Night Football match between the Chiefs and Seahawks, which the Chiefs won 24-17. The Chiefs went 7-9 the 2000 season, and the Hawks went 6-10. The Broncos went 11-5, mainly because of their defense and the play of third-year quarterback Brian Grease, son of Bob Grease. We finished second in the West, behind the Raiders and Rich Gannon with a 12-4 record. While the Raiders lost to Ray Lewis and the Ravens in the AFC Championship, we would lose to them 2 rounds earlier in the wild card. That Ravens team had the best defense but a subpar offense, even leading Trent Dilfer to become the worst QB to win a Super Bowl. Anyways, moving on. Our first game on our docket is the Week 1 match between the Raiders and Steelers in 1976. The Raiders were down 28-14 to the Steelers with 3 minutes and 50 seconds left to play. You needed to take the Raiders, who had Hostetler as their QB in 1994, to the big win. For context, their QB in 1976 was a legendary Ken Stabler, also known as Snake, after his high school coach named him after a long winding touchdown run. Also, as a extra fun fact, pro wrestler Jake Roberts adopted his nickname as a tribute to Stabler. He was posthumously inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2016, after dying on July 8, 2015 at age 69 in Gulfport, Mississippi from colon cancer. He also had stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, in which he was one of at least 345 players diagnosed after death with CTE, which is caused by repeated hits to the head. In other words, an advanced concussion. Dale Earnhardt Jr. became the first auto racing competitor, agreeing to donate his brain upon his death, mainly because of what happened to his father and his multiple concussions throughout his career. Brain injuries aside, Stabler helped his team come back from a 14-point deficit. He had a 10-yard pass to Dave Casper to make it 28-21, and then a 2-yard run to tie the game. Fred Steinfurt had a 21-yard field goal at the end of the game to give the Raiders the win. As for how both teams' season went, we all know the Raiders beat the Vikings in Super Bowl XI, but they also beat the Steelers in the AFC Championship. As a side note, they also beat the Patriots in the divisional round, in a rare pre-Belichick era playoff appearance. Before then, the Patriots had 10 non-Belichick playoff appearances, 3 wild-card losses, 4 division round losses, 2 Super Bowl losses, and 1 AFL Championship loss. Also, Pete Carroll started his coaching career with the Patriots in 1997, but had one stint with the Jets in 1994, going 6-10. He went 27-21 with the Patriots over 3 years. Now he's with the Seahawks, and the rest is history. Now, our next game is the October 6, 1991 contest between the Vikings and Lions, so here's Bradley Rivera to cover this game, since we left him out of the last episode.
We all remember what happened with the Lions in 1991. They had their most successful season since. Is it 1957 or is it 1983? Whatever. Anyways, on October 6, 1991, the Lions had a home matchup with their division rival, the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions enter this one at 4-1 and the Vikings enter this one at 2-3. Here's what the Central Division looked like at week 6. The Bears and Lions were tied at 4, and let me remind you, our QB was Vinny Testaverde, who was a massive disappointment in Tampa, and that culminated with an injury late in the season. The Lions fell behind to the Vikings 20-3. Their comeback started in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes and 58 seconds remaining. Robert Clark caught a 68-yard touchdown pass from Rodney Peete to cut it down to 10. They ended up cutting it to 3 after a Willie Green 16-yard touchdown pass from Pete, and took the lead late off of a 15-yard Barry Sanders touchdown run, and they didn't lose it for the rest of the game, as the Lions won 24-20. Now, as for what happened to the Pontiac Silverdome, it was abandoned after Ford Field was built in 2002. It was put up for sale multiple times, and at the end of March 2018, the last freestanding wall of the Silverdome was destroyed, leaving a 50-foot deep hole where the stadium once stood. 55,000 cubic yards of crushed concrete remained on site to be used as landfill material. Demolition officials stated that final filling and grading operations of the former Silverdome site were expected to be completed by the end of November 2018. The Raiders, on the other hand, played in Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, but moved to Allegiant Stadium in 2020, and it's more likely that the Athletics are gonna follow suit at the end of the 2024 MLB season. The Vikings went 8-8, and as explained in the 2020 Thanksgiving special, the Lions went 12-4 and lost in the NFC Championship to the Commanders, then called the Redskins, which its name was retired all thanks to the George Floyd protests, which led to larger awareness of the Native American mascot controversy. This didn't affect the Chiefs though, as they dropped the Warpaint mascot in favor of Casey Wolf in 1989, but Warpaint was officially retired on July 26, 2021. The conclusion drawn was support for natives being insulted, rather than honored, by Native American mascots. Same situation, different story for the Atlanta Baseball Club, or as we know it, the Braves. In July 2020, Richard Sneed released a statement about the tribe's conversations with the Braves. The statement said the EBC believed that candid, thoughtful conversations are crucial to educating leaders and bringing about positive change. The EBC statement also applauded the Braves' willingness to engage in this effort and look forward to continuing to build the relationship the EBC shares with them, to present a model for how other professional sports teams can work with native nations in a respectful and constructive manner. Before the 2021 World Series, Van Kai criticized the defense of the mascot and chop by MLB Commissioner Manfred, and Nkai President Fawn Sharp reiterated the viewpoint of Native Americans that any caricature representation is harmful. Now on to our next game.
Speaking of the Lions' 1957 season, the Lions were trailing the Colts in this Week 6 matchup 27-3. But with 3 minutes left in the game, on the Colts 31, the Lions had to drive down the field being down 27-17. They did that and scored on a John Henry Johnson run from 1 yard out, and at the end of the game, Bobby Lane, who was also the team's kicker, completed a 29-yard pass to Howard Cassidy to give the Lions the win. Things were different back in the 50s. First, most QBs also played as kickers and/or punters. Second, there were 12 games per season. Third, the AFL was yet to be founded, since it was founded in the 60s, and going off of the third reason, since the AFL wasn't founded yet, there was no Super Bowl, so the NFL championship was the true championship game in that era. Also the fact that division winners only made it into the playoffs, which says a lot about a later game that the Lions played in 1957, but that won't be discussed until the next special, since we're covering games 11 through 20 here.
Here's a fact for you guys. The previous 2 games we covered had either the Detroit Lions or the Minnesota Vikings. Now, we've got a game where the Vikings are the main attraction. In this Week 13 matchup, the Vikings were down 23-7 with 10 minutes and 51 seconds remaining and the ball at the Eagles' 44-yard line. The Vikings started their comeback with a Willie Teal 65-yard fumble recovery touchdown to make it 23-14. Then, Wade Wilson completed a 36-yard pass to Anthony Carter to make it 23-21. Then, Wade found Carter again. This time, it was a 42-yard pass and the Vikings won 28-23. As for playoff standings, neither made the playoffs, which isn't a surprise, since both teams were mediocre, with matching 7-9 records. Dallas won the East as the Bears won both the Central Division and that year's Super Bowl over the Patriots. The Vikings finished third in the Central and the Eagles finished fourth in the East. Now as for stadium history, the Lions-Colts game from 1957 was played in Briggs Stadium, now known as Tiger Stadium, after the Lions left for Pontiac. The Detroit Tigers of the MLB occupied the venue until 1999, where they moved to Comerica Park. It was demolished on September 21, 2009 and Corner Ballpark opened in 2018 on the site. As for Veterans Stadium, the Eagles left for Lincoln Financial Field in 2003 and the Phillies left. As for Veterans Stadium, the Eagles left for Lincoln Financial Field in 2003 and the Phillies left for Citizens Bank Park in 2004 and the Vet was demolished on March 21, 2004. Various plaques were spotted in the now parking lot. On June 6, 2005, the anniversary of World War II's D-Day, a plaque and monument to commemorate the spot where the stadium stood and a memorial for all veterans was dedicated by the Phillies before their game against the Arizona Diamondbacks. On September 28, 2005, the second anniversary of the stadium's final game, a historical marker commemorating where the ballpark once stood was dedicated. In April 2006, granite spaces marking the former locations of home plate, the pitcher's mound, and the three bases for baseball, as well as the goalpost placements for football, were added in Citizens Bank Park's western parking lot before the stadium's implosion. The Vet's Liberty Bell replica was removed from its perch and placed in storage. In 2019, the bell was installed outside the third base entrance of Citizens Bank Park.
September 26, 1977 saw a stormy day in Cleveland as the visiting Patriots were able to tie the game and send it to OT. The Patriots won the toss. The Browns had to stop the Patriots and forge a win. Like Brandon said last episode, the overtime thing was introduced in 1974 to limit the number of ties in a season, but it was a concept that was used by the AFL prior to the NFL-UFL merger in 1970, but the league did this in 1940, and for championship games in 1946, as this was shown in the greatest game ever played, the 1958 NFL Championship between the Colts and Giants. But that was for any divisional tiebreaker games, and the whole extra period thing after the fourth quarter was introduced in 1974. The 15-minute period was changed to 10 minutes in 2017, but only in regular season games, while overtime in preseason games was abolished from 1920 to 1973 and since 2021, and it remains 15 minutes for playoff games. Also, because there cannot be a tie in the playoffs, the teams would switch ends of the field and start multiple 15-minute overtime periods until one side scored, and all clock rules were as if a game had started over, should a tie remain after overtime. This procedure repeats in true sudden death thereafter. Therefore, if a game was still tied with 2 minutes to go in any even overtime, there would be a 2-minute warning, but not during the first overtime period as in the regular season. If it was still tied at the end of the second overtime, the team that lost the overtime coin toss would have the option to kick or receive, or to choose which direction to play at the end of the fourth overtime. There is a new coin toss, and play continues. However, no NFL game has completed a second overtime period. A 2022 rule change gives both teams one possession to start the first overtime in playoff games, no matter whether or not a touchdown is scored first. Any defensive score would still end the game immediately. No ties happened in the 77 season, but the Rams and Vikings tied in Week 2 of the previous season, and the Vikings and Packers tied in Week 13 of the next season. The scores of both games were both the same, a 10-10 tie. As for this Week 2 matchup, the score was 27, all going into the extra period. The Browns stopped the Patriots and drove down the field and ended it on a Don Cockcroft 35-yard field goal, to take it 30-27. Cleveland Municipal Stadium was the former home of what became the Art Model Ravens, was replaced with what was First Energy Stadium, but now is simply Cleveland Browns Stadium. And let's say this for the record, the old Browns didn't relocate, they suspended operations, or deactivated until 1999, the other Browns were made into a new team, but with the 1995 Browns roster and 1996 rookies for the Ravens, including Ray Lewis, Jonathan Ogden, Jermaine Lewis, among others.
Let's take a timeout so we can discuss some important matters. First, MMB Update 11's topic was gonna be all about the recent accusations directed towards Noah Martorana, as BG Enterprises, also known as B, made a cut-out towards him because he groomed Sarah Santos. For context, Noah is 20 and Sarah is 17. However, this might be changed to something else, a small topic. Brandon's could do a full video on it, since Brandon blocked several users for negative comments towards his deviant art friends, along with Noah, Sioki and HTF was included, along with the fake Looney the Beaver account, Face Allen and Skull 1, Media Azure the Cat YT, Carol Chan 087, RNX 4 Life and Oatmeal HTF, all for differing reasons, from mean comments, to just their toxic demeanor. Brandon also blocked people who make explicit art of certain users' OCs like Sammy, for example. Second, we at MMB Productions, since the 10th anniversary of the channel will be coming on April 30th, 2025, we are planning to revisit old videos and remaster projects. We will start with the final encounter, since the recent part 3 had 2 missing frames in the scene where Jared and Eliza are hiding in the Smith's house from Bongo's gang. The frames that were missing was when Eliza was talking and the other is the frame where Anna is talking. These remastered versions are for the full movie, as the other ones are just the parts templates. Then, episodes 1 and 2 of the GX03 prologue will be next, as well as adjusting Hunter's voice in part 1 to be normal instead of being pitched down. Other 4x3 videos will be converted to 16:9 as well. The thumbnails will have a giant updated graphic across it in a horizontal angle. Third, as for future projects, the trailer for Happy Tree Friends Adventures X has 2 teaser versions, one being based on the Mega Man X intro, and the other being a traditional HTF adventure intro. Other future projects and trailers will be released soon. Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Hey Alexis, mind if I take this one?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Anyways, this divisional round match between the Oilers and the Broncos was an important game for all teams involved. After being down 21-6 in the second quarter and came back from a 15-point deficit, starting with a Brett Lewis 1-yard run at the end of the second. The third had David Treadwell convert a 49-yard field goal. The fourth had Brett Lewis having another 1-yard TD run to make it 24-23, and they won off a David Treadwell 28-yard field goal to take it 26-24. We then lost to the Bills in the AFC Championship 10-7. However, another game that involved a comeback featuring the Oilers will be discussed next special, along with the NFC Western Conference Championship. Also, as I said last episode, the old Mile High Stadium was replaced with Empower Field at Mile High. As for why the Tennessee Titans graphics is in place of the Houston Oilers graphic, Bud Adams moved the Oilers to Tennessee in 1997 and renamed them the Titans in 1999, the very same season where the Titans made Super Bowl 34, and we all know what happened at the end of that game, from M material. Now Alexis, you can take the next match.
Thanks. Now, we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, or covering 2 games in 1 segment. The Jets and the Browns erupted into quite a shootout in this AFC divisional matchup. The Jets were ahead by 10 and with 4 minutes left, the Browns made a comeback and won it in OT. They scored off of a Kevin Mack 1-yard run earlier in the 4th, and at the end of the 4th, they tied it off of a Mark Mosley 22-yard field goal, and won it in OT off a Mosley 27-yard field goal. The Browns would eventually lose to the Broncos in the game called The Drive. In the first of 3 losses to the Broncos in the AFC Championship, the other 2 being the 1987 AFC Championship and the 1989 AFC Championship. Now, on to Game 18.
Here's a situation that was way ahead of its time. Super Bowl 44 between the Jaguars and the Panthers. With 5 minutes and 34 seconds left in the 4th quarter, the Panthers received the kickoff and need 10 points to tie. The score was 27-17. Now, normally, we would show the highlights of this game, but this never happened, so here's the highlights of the real Super Bowl 44, between the Saints and the Colts, starting with the onside kick to start the 3rd quarter. As for what actually happened, the Jaguars went 8-8 and the Panthers went 7-9, and both didn't make the playoffs. The Colts went 14-2.
They defeated the Ravens 20-7 in the divisional round and then defeated the Jets in the AFC Championship 30-17. The Saints went 13-3, won against the Cardinals in the divisional round and won against the Vikings, despite what defensive coordinator Greg Williams told his team to do, and that is, in his own words, intentionally hurt Brett Favre, causing Williams to lose his job after the 2011 season. The Saints would beat the Colts in Super Bowl 44, 31-17. The Jaguars wouldn't make it to the playoffs until their unprecedented 2017 season, and the Panthers didn't make it to the playoffs until the Cam Newton era starting in 2013 and ending in 2017. Trevor Lawrence is looking like prime Mark Brunell from the mid-90s, as seen against the Broncos in the AFC Divisional in 1996, and even giving Dan Marino the most embarrassing send-off ever, beating the Dolphins 62-7. Moving on to the next game.
In the Southern California rivalry, the Chargers and Rams were tied at 10, sending the game into OT. The Chargers kicked off an OT and the Rams had to take charge of the Chargers. The Rams would win it off a Tom Dempsey 22-yard field goal. There wasn't much about this game, unfortunately. As for stadium history, San Diego Stadium, which was renamed Qualcomm Stadium in 1997 and to SDCC Stadium in 2017, and back to San Diego Stadium in 2021, was the home of the Chargers prior to their move to Los Angeles in 2017. This stadium was also home to the San Diego State Aztecs until 2019, where they moved to Snapdragon Stadium, which is also known as Aztec Stadium. Snapdragon also was the sponsor for San Diego Stadium in 2011 only. It was also the home for the Holiday Bowl and the Poinsettia Bowl, until the Poinsettia Bowl was shut down as the San Diego Bowl Game Association was focusing only on the Holiday Bowl, which moved to Petco Park in 2021, where the Padres had played since 2004. The stadium was demolished on March 22, 2021. Moving on to the last game in this video, Super Bowl I, the Packers and the Chiefs participated in the first AFL-NFL championship game, which would later be called the Super Bowl by Chiefs coach Hank Stram. The Packers and Chiefs would meet in LA and the Packers won it 35-10. In this situation, he played as the Chiefs and tried to mount a comeback from 28-10. So, 3 certain scenarios of winning exist. 1. The Chiefs would have won 38-35. 2. The Chiefs would have lost 35-32, or 35-10 like in real life. And 3. The game ties and would have been put into overtime, like the 1958 NFL Championship. It's weird that a scenario like this exists, since the AFL wouldn't win the Super Bowl until 1968, when Joe Namath helped the Jets win their first and only championship, firmly putting the AFL on the map. This Super Bowl was held in LA Memorial Coliseum, where Southern California plays their home games, where the Busch Clash is held at since 2022, and in 2028, the venue will host its 3rd Olympic event, and first since 1984, along with SoFi Stadium in downtown Inglewood. The U.S. also will have its first Olympic Games since 1996 in Atlanta, and 9th overall in the U.S.
Going back to Super Bowl III, it's crazy that he predicted that as well. If the Colts won that game, the merger between the AFL and the NFL may not have happened. Well, that's it for this special. But, before we end the show, we have a special message for you all. Cheyenne, would you like to do the honors?
Sure. Guys, we would like to thank you all for supporting us for the past 8 years. But we have a surprise for you all. The 9th episode of Mega Man Chronicles Cross Happy Tree Friends, Cuddles and NIEs, Parents Impending will be a double feature.
First, the episode Cuddles and NIEs, Parents Impending, where NIEs and Cuddles start a family with the birth of their son Andrew will play as normal.
Then, a new special episode will be created, this one being an episode related to the Skaggles Nightmare movie. This is more of a bonus episode if the movie was released on DVD. It's called Edge of the Nightmare, the origins and future of Skaggles and Winter's relationship.
This episode will explain how Skaggles first met Winter and how she helped him reform his life after a tragic series of events.
These events, rather than what Skaggles did for his life for his own OC, these events happen when in Skaggles' teen years. So if people look like the teen versions of the HTF characters Brandon created for the prototype version of ReFuture and the flashback sequence in Crossroads, that is the reason why.
These events are related to his mental disorder called nightmare disorder, a sleep disorder characterized by repeated intense nightmares that most often center on threats to physical safety and security. This episode will also show how he got the disorder, which is his most darkest event he encountered, and the first of many downfalls prior to meeting Winter. This episode could actually be more darker than the Skittles Nightmare movie itself.
More information will be revealed when Update 11 releases sometime in January.
Anyways, from all of us at MMB Productions, and to everyone around the world, we wish you guys a very Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas.
See you later.